Good morning. I'm Don Irvine here in Bethesda, Maryland, just outside Washington, D.C., and it's time for the morning report. All right, in the news, big news. All eyes are watching the Georgia 6th congressional district race, the election taking place today. This is to replace Tom Price, who is in the Trump cabinet, and as a result, this has been a very hotly contested race. Jon Ossoff is the Democrat, battling against former Secretary of State for Georgia, Karen Handel, and we'll see how this goes. Democrats are very hopeful that it'll go their way. They're counting on this race. They're looking for something that shows there's a referendum on President Trump, and that his agenda cannot and will not go forth and will be a harbinger of 2018. Well, they definitely need something, because every single election to date that they have tried they've failed. So here's another one they have a chance to win. And if the Democrats do not win this seat, it'll be a huge blow to them. They have poured in tons and tons of money. It's the most expensive race in congressional history, and a lot of money has come in from out of state for Ossoff. This doesn't bother the Democrats, by the way. They're only bothered when it's out-of-state money coming in for Republicans. Out-of-state money for Democrats doesn't mean a darn thing to them. So yeah, hypocrites all the time, no doubt about it. All right, moving on. Otto Warmbier, 22-year-old college student that had been held in a North Korean prison since January 2016, was just released a week ago to come home. He came home in a coma, and he died yesterday. The chances that he would have lived probably would have been slim. I mean, he was in pretty bad shape. The doctor said he had lost a lot of brain tissue. He wasn't able to see. He wasn't responding to anything. So it was pretty grave from the get-go. This was a terrible, terrible tragedy. Not going to excuse what Warmbier did in trying to pull his little college prank and steal a political poster in North Korea. You gotta at least think a little bit. Is that did he not realize? Did he not think that the North Koreans are watching him every second of the day? It's a communist dictatorship after all, but the punishment does not fit the crime in any way, shape, or form, and the fact that it has resulted in his death this is brutality. This is some of the worst things I can recall seeing in my life in terms of this. Is that here's a guy who'd been in prison for 15 months or thereabouts, 16, 17 months, and then he comes home, in a coma, already in extremely bad, poor shape. Kind of wonder. I don't know the reasons why the Obama administration was not able to bring him home earlier. Did they really make the effort? That is going to always be a question until somebody delves deeper into that. But this is a tragedy all the way around, and it's an outrage if you're an American to see that the North Koreans basically have killed an American citizen for no really good reason at all. So this is, and this is a country that is looking for our help, our assistance, our aid, our money. Forget it. Not a chance. I'm sorry. Not a chance. All right. Moving on. We also have the Paris attack. Yet again, Paris has been attacked. This time it was the Champs-Élysées. A car loaded with explosives rammed into a police car, blew up. The driver was killed. According to French police Paris sources, it says that he was on their radar, so they kind of knew who this guy was, and yet that didn't prevent this attack from taking place. Now, given that he didn't kill anybody except for himself on this, so I would say that it's an abject failure. Not sure exactly what his motivation was, but I'm sure we'll find out about that. But nevertheless, underscoring the nature of what's going on in Europe and their inability to prevent these terror attacks from happening on their own soil, and how much of an effect potentially illegal immigration or just the open border policies that these countries have had in general are affecting their country. in the sense that it's just too many people to track, and they don't really care about tracking them. So you get things like this that happen as people become radicalized. Supreme Court yesterday had a couple of interesting things going on there. One is that they agreed to take up the Wisconsin gerrymandering case. That could be pivotal for elections, depending upon how they rule here. I am not a big fan of these gerrymandered districts, and I don't care whether or not this is a Republican or a Democrat. I mean, look, I'm a registered Republican, but I hate it when Republicans gerrymander to protect their own and not do a fair and equitable thing, because until they do that, you just have to say, okay, look, I think, from the number of Republicans, number of Democrats, I'm not sure that those numbers would shift that much if we had honest apportionment. But it would be actually nice to have districts that made sense, were contiguous, and had and took their populations, and rather than being drawn by the politicians, say, we'll take this section and this section because they've got the votes we want, and then we're going to tie them together like this, with just kind of run where the narrow road goes there. So you have a barbell, or you just get weird shaped districts, rather than having them look. Here's the population. This is the number that the Constitution says needs to be in a district, and therefore, we're going to divide up the state and the county and whatever into these districts that are based on population. You start on one end, you move your way along. When you hit that number, fine. It may mean the next part of your county goes to the next area, but fine, as long as you keep it contiguous. Don't be cutting these little thin lines through here to tie that, while the rest of the county, your area, is doing something completely different. I gotta watch it about kicking this darn thing, don't I? Anyway, so you have that. The other side of that was that they did issue an unanimous ruling about trademark and about disparagement, saying that trademarks, rulings, their standard of saying that if you have what they determine to be a disparaging name, that you, under the First Amendment and free speech, you cannot be turned down. So this was really based on a case with a musical group called The Slants. The guy who was pushing this through, Simon Tam, he's an Asian. I mean, he said the idea was that it wasn't to offend. I mean, he's Asian himself. It was to put a positive spin on this. And I think you can do that. You can say that there is room for that. And even more so for the Washington Redskins. And so even though they were not a party to the case, they're going to be a beneficiary thereof. And owner Daniel Snyder will now be able to actually probably get further along to where he's been or needed to be. So we'll see how this all shakes out in the end. But it's probably good news for the Redskins, and very good news for the Slants overall. And then also we have extreme heat. So if you're out there in the southwest and west where you're facing temperatures of 116, 122, stay indoors, stay safe, stay cool, stay hydrated. It's hot enough. I've seen this before. Didn't really realize it to understand this a little bit better, but actually if you're supposed to fly into or out of those areas, you're going to have a difficult time today, because flights have been canceled and grounded. When it's that hot, the air density changes enough that planes have a very hard time taking off. So I think this is what's happening. We have a couple of small planes here in this area, and I think the same thing is going to be said and done of them as well. Anyway, have a great day. Stay cool where you can. Stay safe, and then we'll see you tomorrow. It'll also be the podcast. I'll do one more morning report, and then hopefully watch for the podcast. Hopefully we'll actually get the video straightened out. Some weird thing happened, and we were only getting like 6 to 9 second clips, so that wasn't sufficient enough to edit and put it all together for the podcast. And I know you miss us. All right, so until tomorrow, stay safe. Have a great day.